Hi, welcome to Take a Break, Take a Breath for Monday, September 13th. I'm Rick Boyer, the pastor of Prospect Presbyterian Church in Maplewood, New Jersey. And Take a Break, Take a Breath is an invitation for you to pause in your day, to just rest for a while, to set down all of the things that you have to do, or that you want to do, or that you need to do, and just breathe and be present to God who made you and loves you and calls you by name. For each of the Take a Break times, I focus on a different passage of Scripture, and I've been working my way through the book of Romans. And we're up to Romans 2, verses 17 to 29. Paul's been building an argument that we need more than just the signs of the covenant. We need to live from the heart, and that it is God's righteousness that puts us right. In this particular passage, he challenges his own community, the Jewish community, and says, you're not living up to what God called you to be. If the community is a community, he's not talking about individuals now, but the community. If the community as a community has any wrongdoing in it, then it causes others who are outside that community to think badly of it. And so when we make a claim to be God's people and then we do things that don't reflect God's way in the world, that's destructive. And he goes on to say the outer rituals like circumcision, they're a matter of the heart, not a matter of just the outer ritual itself. And so he's making this argument, and he's being careful, and we should be careful not to say that God has turned God's back on the Jewish people. In fact, for Paul, it's just the opposite. But that we have to live into all of that, and it has to come from our hearts. So I chose as a verse for today, so if those who are uncircumcised keep the requirements of the law, will not their uncircumcision be regarded as circumcision? In other words, if those who don't have the outer sign live the way of God, won't their outer sign be looked upon by God as the way of God? And won't it be viewed as them having the outer sign? Won't they be viewed as part of the community? So let's take baptism. If those who are not baptized live in a way that reflects being a child of God, won't that be regarded as them being baptized? That's what he's arguing. That's what Paul's saying. It's not that the Jewish community, God's not turning God's back on the Jewish community, but we are being reminded that faith is a matter of the heart, and it's from the heart that we live in a different way, and it's those two things together. So if you haven't already done so, I invite you to go to a quiet place in your house and close the door and settle into a chair and just breathe. And as you breathe in the breath of God. And as you breathe out all that separates you from God. As you breathe in the breath of life. And as you breathe out all that does not give you life. As you breathe in God's peace. And as you breathe out all of your worries and your fears and your anxieties and your responsibilities, and just feel God's peace and love and grace. And imagine that the peace of God and the grace of God is growing in you. Imagine that it moves from your lungs to your heart, and from your heart out to all of your body. Imagine that the peace of God can be felt in every part of your body, because it can be, and it is. And it is touching every part of your body. The peace of God moves from your heart up through your neck, and it relaxes the muscles in your neck. And it moves from your heart up through your neck to your brain, and it calms your brain. It moves into your face, and it relaxes the muscles in your face, and maybe you even smile. It moves from your heart into your shoulders and down your arms and into your hands. And your hands open up to receive God's goodness and grace and peace. Your arms and shoulders feel the renewal and the energy of God. It moves into your back from your heart. And the weightiness of all the things on your back or causing you to slump over emotionally are released. God's peace fills those muscles. The peace and grace of God moves into your stomach. And as it moves into your stomach, all of the upset that is buried in your stomach is released, and you are calmed. The peace and grace of God move into your legs and down to your feet. The tiredness of running and running and running moves away. And your legs and feet feel renewed. The peace and grace of God touches every part of your body. And then in your mind's eye, go to a place where you remember that God became more real for you, or where you experience God's closeness or God's call in your life. It might be a church camp. It might be a campus. It might be a church itself. It might be the campus of a college or university or a chapel. It might be a room in your home, maybe your childhood home. What is that place like? What are the colors that you see? What are the sounds that you hear in that space? What does the air feel like? And how does it feel to be in that space right now? Do you sense God's nearness to you in this moment? Can you sense God's call in your life? Hopefully there's a place where you can sit. And you sit down to reflect on God's call. That you are a child of God. That you are called to live God's way. and that God forgives you when you come up short. I'll leave you in the quiet for a few moments, and perhaps you and the Spirit of God, or how God came to you and is coming to you, will enable you to be in communication with God now. And then the time for reflection, for thinking about God's call and the journey that you've been on, comes to an end for now, but you can always come back to this place and renew that call and seek forgiveness for the shortcomings, because we all have them, and hear God's loving words that you are my child, you are loved, you are forgiven. So you end that time in whatever way is appropriate. And you allow that image to fade away. And you bring yourself back to the room where you are. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Let's take a break, take a breath for Monday, September 13th. If you have feedback for me, or you want to talk or pray, give me a call and we'll make arrangements to sit down. Well, you can't give me a call. Send me an email and we'll make arrangements to sit down and talk and pray together real soon.